Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
Welcome to one of Africa's highest, most remote and unknown mountain ranges, located in Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. The Rwenzori Mountains, also known as the Mountains of the Moon, are stretched over 120 kilometers long and 61 kilometers wide. Come and experience Africa's most beautiful alpine area. With every hour and every altitude gain, the landscapes, colors and views are ever-changing. This UNESCO-protected national park contains unique biodiversity and breathtaking sceneries such as the bamboo zones, mossy heather zone, numerous waterfalls, tropical rainforest, mountain lakes, and eternal snow. Culminating at an altitude of 5,109 meters, the Margarita Peak is the highest point in Uganda and the third highest peak of the whole African continent after Kilimanjaro and Mount Kenya. This mystical and demanding mountain range is located on the foothills of Queen Elizabeth National Park, one of Africa's most popular game drives, and a few hundred kilometers from the Bwindi impenetrable forest that inhabits the endangered silverback mountain gorillas. Rwenzori Mountains offers trails for all levels of hikers, which range from 1-day to 10-day trips. The shorter trips are not as physically demanding and still showcase the amazing beauty in the art of nature, including rare vegetation, rivers, and numerous waterfalls. This unique biosphere is a true gem that needs to be preserved not only for the many endemic species it contains, but also for the local community which directly benefits and lives from the mountain's gifts. Be ready for the ultimate trekking experience. Come and discover Rwenzori, the Mountains of the Moon located in Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Welcome to one of Africa's highest, most remote and unknown mountain ranges, located in Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. The Rwenzori Mountains, also known as the Mountains of the Moon, are stretched over 120 kilometers long and 61 kilometers wide. Come and experience Africa's most beautiful alpine area. With every hour and every altitude gain, the landscapes, colors and views are ever-changing. This UNESCO-protected national park contains unique biodiversity and breathtaking sceneries such as the bamboo zones, mossy heather zone, numerous waterfalls, tropical rainforest, mountain lakes, and eternal snow. Culminating at an altitude of 5,109 meters, the Margarita Peak is the highest point in Uganda and the third highest peak of the whole African continent after Kilimanjaro and Mount Kenya. This mystical and demanding mountain range is located on the foothills of Queen Elizabeth National Park, one of Africa's most popular game drives, and a few hundred kilometers from the Bwindi impenetrable forest that inhabits the endangered silverback mountain gorillas. Rwenzori Mountains offers trails for all levels of hikers, which range from 1-day to 10-day trips. The shorter trips are not as physically demanding and still showcase the amazing beauty in the art of nature, including rare vegetation, rivers, and numerous waterfalls. This unique biosphere is a true gem that needs to be preserved not only for the many endemic species it contains, but also for the local community which directly benefits and lives from the mountain's gifts.
Down, but we won't have to wait too long. In about 2 minutes, we should be setting off. Our keynote speaker is ready, though she couldn't be able to be with us physically, but like you can see, she is online and she will be joining us. She did send a message and she will definitely be joining us for this. All our speakers are amidst us. I will be calling them up after our keynote speaker gets to speak to us. I'll be calling all our speakers up and we'll have an interactive session. It looks quite long, up to 5:30, but trust me, it won't be as long as you think the hours are. So when we get to start, we will roll immediately. We will have our speakers speak off cuff. Those who have presentations, it's just fine. We'll have the presentations and then we'll go into the discussions with the audience. So let me get back to us in 3 minutes and we kick off. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we won't have to wait any longer because those who are joining us online are ready, waiting for the discussion to go on. Good afternoon once again. My name is Mildred Tohaise. I will take you through the discussion. I'll just simply facilitate because the experts in the field are right here with us and they will be speaking to us. And like I said, we are going to have our keynote address, and immediately after the keynote, I'll call up the speakers who will feel free to speak off cuff or to have a presentation, as brief as it will be, and thereafter we will be as well setting in with the interactions from the public. Just for what we will be having, particularly we are going to be talking about the emerging trends in tourism and hospitality sector. That is what our keynote speaker is going to be paying attention to. But we are going to be looking at issues of innovations and creativity in the tourism sector, because there are also aspects of digitalization. We are a global village. That is why I normally say that COVID-19 took us aback, but it also taught us a number of lessons. Many a times we would think having such events and having people joining us online would be a thing of the future. But fortunately, because of the unfortunate COVID-19, it came to us earlier than we had expected. Although it took us by surprise, we had to adapt. We had to learn. We had to get on the bus lest we were going to be left aside. And so digitalization is very, very important. Gone are the days where you had to fly in, book your ticket, do everything. Now, most of the things can be done online. And can we do the same for the tourism sector? I know some of these things are already being done, so we're going to explore this. We're going to look at what's already being done, but also what more can we pay attention to? It's no longer a laissez-faire attitude of saying we're gifted by nature, like Uganda. Our current currency notes at inception had that theme, Uganda gifted by nature. But yes, whereas we are gifted by nature, can we do much more than paying attention to what God has given us as a country? So we'll be exploring into that. Partly we will also be looking at the contribution of the ICT sector. Of course, we do have the Uganda Communications Commission. We're represented here. But we will also be talking matters intellectual property. I was attending an intellectual property seminar, and the Registrar General did clearly mention that more than 90% of people come up with ideas, with unique services and products, but unfortunately they run to the market before they even secure their intellectual property. So you find that, yes, you have something, it's a beautiful idea, and you're selling it out already to the market, and sometimes, unfortunately, the persons who do this do not have as much funds, so you're trying to look out for funds, and the person who has the funds but doesn't have the idea steals it and takes it, and you can't take them anywhere because you didn't secure your intellectual property. So we will be expounding much more on that, and digitalization, like I did say, but also luxury tourism. We can't do business as usual, we can't do business as normal, but it also loops into the public relations perspective and the innovations right there. So ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I'm going to request our technical team to get to us our keynote address, and we're going to be speaking to Miss Natalia Bayona, the Director of Innovation, Education and Investment from the World Tourism Organization, is going to be speaking to us. She couldn't make it, but let's just listen to her.
Hi everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today with all of you. First of all, remember that 4 years ago, when our Secretary General Surab Pololikashvili came to the UNWTO, he decided to include innovation, technology as part of one of his strongest pillars. Of course, today the UNWTO has at least 5 priorities inside this house: innovation and digital transformation.
Sorry, are we able to hear? Was that sound okay? All right, let's continue with that.
Information, education, investments, sustainability, and of course, added value jobs. Today, we would like to start this amazing conference with
Sorry, it's buffering, but the technical team will help us with that.
how these people
Sorry, let's just get the technical team to help us out with that because we want to actually start off with paying full attention to our keynote. Let's see if we get back.
Of course, when our Secretary General Surab Pololikashvili came to the UNWTO, he decided to include innovation, technology as part of one of his strongest pillars. Of course, today the UNWTO has at least 5 priorities inside this house: innovation and digital transformation, education, investments, sustainability, and of course, added value jobs. Today, we would like to start this amazing conference with how these pillars can help us to create a better
Kindly request the technical team to help us have that sorted before we get to continue.
how these pillars can help us to create
All right, sorry. Thankfully, this is part of what we're going to be discussing, ICTs in the tourism sector, but we will definitely be getting back to her in just a bit. It's a technical glitch that we are sorting. We'll be getting back to her in just a bit, Natalia. But allow me just not to take a lot more time. We'll be listening to her. It's less than 25 minutes, so we'll be getting back to her in just a bit. Okay, and as we continue, allow me invite my other panelists right in front. We'll be getting to listen from Natalia much later on. Okay, to speak more about the topic that we are discussing this afternoon, emerging trends, innovation, and creativity in the tourism sector, allow me invite, in no particular order, so it's no order of preference or something like that, speak about digitalization trends and opportunities in the tourism sector, Mr. Japhet Kawanguzi, who is the founder and team leader at Innovation Village. Somehow, somewhere, we've all heard about what Innovation Village does, amazing work. Let's welcome him with a round of applause, please. Some warmth. Do we need to stretch out a little before we start? Maybe yes, at some point in time we'll need to do that. All right, and also to discuss matters innovation in tourism sector in Uganda, and particularly paying attention to a case study of the Tuvayo under the Innovation Village. I don't know, okay, he sat at the extreme end, so you won't be sitting right next to your boss. Let's welcome Mr. Boris Mugisha. A round of applause for Boris, who is the co-founder and chief operating officer of Tuvayo Limited. He will be telling us a little bit about Tuvayo and what they do, the works that they do, and basically speaking about matters innovation. And last but in no means the least, allow me invite to speak about luxury tourism, positioning and curating experiences that do attract high-value guests with a PR value that I was talking about earlier on. Miss Bonita Mtoni, the Director, Global Events Africa. A big round of applause. At least there is a lady on the panel. I think this is the very reason why the moderator of the panel had to be a lady, because there had to be a bit of balancing coming through. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be listening to our panelists. We'll later on be going back to Natalia. Unfortunately, we couldn't be able to have her clearly, but we'll be getting back to her. And for those who are joining us online, in case you have any questions coming through as we get to discuss, please make sure that they continue coming through. We'll also be sampling them, especially when we get to the plenary session. Since it is talking about emerging trends, innovation, and creativity, I want to start with Tuvayo, particularly about this innovation, what it speaks to, what you've seen work, what does not work, what are the lessons that you've actually taken through in this space?
Oh, that's a ton of questions. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The energy seems a little low. I don't know if people had lunch. Anyway, so what I would like, first of all, recognize part of the team that is here, Mr. Moendo Joseph, Nancy Businje, and also Deepak, who's from the Innovation Village also. So how Tuvayo came to life is because of the existence of the problems within our society that two groups of people were facing. The travelers, who's the traveler, you want to travel, but you don't know where to find what to do. And in case you find it, it's very expensive. It's not priced for you, the average Ugandan, especially the youth. Then the other problem that is still existing deeply is the big high rate of unemployment within the youth. And yet we are in a very beautiful country, which is referred to as the Pearl of Africa. Yeah? So we chose the tourism industry with those two problems within the community and society. And the best way to do it was through technology. So we're using technology as a tool to solve the problem for both the travelers and also the youth, who we now refer to as hosts. So we started off in 2019, and the journey so far has been amazing. We have created jobs for over 1,500 people, and the biggest, about 45% of it is for women, and we have served over 60,000 travelers. But that's all just the beginning before we start to scale out of Uganda and also extend the opportunity to other corners of Uganda. What has worked? What has worked is, I think, consistency and also belief, and the fact that the problem is still existing. As long as there's unemployment in Uganda, we know that Tuvayo is needed, and also we know that people still don't know what to do in Uganda, leave alone Uganda, even just Kampala. Most of the youth, when you ask them what do you do over the weekend, they will tell you, I go out or go watch matches. But that's not so fulfilling, especially if you're growing older, But with our platform, you are able to access over 300 experiences that you could choose from. And we all know the accommodation gap that is in Uganda. We have very few rooms, so the prices are pretty expensive, yeah? And yet you have those nice apartments of yours that you've furnished that you do not use always. So we are using the homes as as an accommodation alternative to solve the accommodation gap. So yeah, what's working is the fact that we're using technology. Our model was able to withstand COVID. It's unfortunate that COVID affected the world, but then it gave rise to online solutions, because now you could not depend on your traditional way of traveling. You wanted to have everything on your mobile device or your computer. And I think some of the lessons that we have learned is that adaptability is key. Customer feedback is key, because anything in 2023, if you're building a tech solution, you have to listen to what the customers want. And the beauty is, with a tech solution, you can adjust it anytime. You can put up a feature today. Like currently, in the beginning, we only used to accept payments via mobile money, but then later we noticed that people are going to want to pay from Kenya, so we had to add other currency payment options, and that was done overnight, right? So you have to be customer centric and always listen to the customers and be willing to adjust according to their preferences, and most importantly, you have to build value. Yeah, so you won't hear us crying that we don't have customers, because when we don't get that booking, we ask ourselves, what didn't we do right? Yeah, why don't we have that customer booking through Tubayo? Why is that person paying for that hotel directly without using our platform? We look at that as a question of increasing the value that we are offering. So we look at technology as a tool, not an end. And value is what we are always looking out for. Yeah.
All right, and now that you talk about value, I love the idea of homes, because sometimes we build homes in the countryside that we only go once, twice in the year, and we leave them lying idle. But there is the aspect of value, the aspect of following up on the quality of service. How are you able to do that? Because with tourism, you're not only doing what I've come and I'm going to a national park. No, it's selling all the five senses, what I'm able to see, what I'm able to feel, what I'm able to experience. How do you follow up on the value for your customer who books, for example, not a hotel, which already has an outline, but my home, which I've given up, for example?
Yeah, very good question. So the beauty with having the homes option is there is no particular standard. You know how if you come to such a hotel, all the rooms on this floor are going to be similar, right? Okay, they may differ that this is a presidential suite or what, but if you are in that category, you're going to have the same room, right? And we all know how there's this change in behavior with the young people nowadays. People want to see different things. People want to consume, they don't want to consume the same thing over and over again. So the homes come with that aspect of, it's not standard. So here you're going to find a blue door. In the next home you'll find it has a smart screen. The other one offers you Wi-Fi. Then you go to outside Kampala, the host will tell you, at my home I don't allow any electric gadgets, you know. So that beauty in the diversity is what's giving us an edge over the hotels that have a standard approach and a very transactional approach to how they receive the tourists. Yeah. Then in that we don't put standard aside. Yeah. So when someone goes to Tubayo and they want to put up their home, they first they create an account with us, and on their host dashboard, us on the admin, we are able to see the people who are applying to put up their homes. Then through our host network, which is all over Kampala, if you've put up a home that is in Nigeria, I may not be able to move to Nigeria when it comes to issues of scale. Our godfather here, Sike, has taught us that you can't move to Nigeria and Entebbe. By the time you move the whole Kampala, you've spent all your money on transport. Yeah. So we use our agent of hosts within those areas to go and verify those homes before we put them up. So by the time you see the home on Tubayo approved, that means it has been checked and verified through our host network to make sure you don't book something else, which has been a case in these online transactions in Uganda. Yeah.
Oh, all right, and I love when you called him a godfather, and I want to go to the godfather right now. Sike, speaking to digitalization, the agenda, it's great. We are talking about fourth industrial revolution, and everything now is about up. But what's the uptake of these applications and the digitalization, especially now that we're talking about tourism? Because there seems to be an opportunity. Do people understand these opportunities, and what are they anyway?
Thank you for the question, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon. You can lift that up.
Yeah.
Just
I'm very excited to be here this afternoon speaking about tourism, because from the technology side, well, we see tourism, we see technology as an added value, not the end, but the means to that end. I think, and this is where a company like Tuvayo comes in, and I'm not the godfather or the boss. We work together in the ecosystem. About, I think, 10 years ago, I picked up an article that was talking about the 10 websites that promote Uganda to the world. And, you know, it was websites around, of course, business, websites around entertainment, websites even about tourism, but I didn't see any website on that list that was speaking about technology, that was speaking about entrepreneurs like Tuvayo and many others, that was speaking about that creativity that we have as a country among the young people that we see across the country. And I think for me that summarizes the ethos of what we try to achieve at the Innovation Village. How do we build a platform that can, you know, unlock this creativity and sell it to the world? So right now I'm proud to say, even as we are at this tourism event, that entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs, technology in Uganda is understood, is celebrated, and people can begin to relate to what, you know, Tuvayo and so many other technology companies are doing. You know, but that's just the start of what we need to do to solve, you know, the problem, to make sure we have, you know, more penetration of the solutions they're building, but also more awareness of the potentials and the diversity that can be achieved as far as, you know, what technology brings on board. We've also heard how entrepreneurial Ugandans are, you know, so many statistics out there, and whoever mentions those statistics is not quick to mention that also those businesses die in their first year of the operation, more than 80% of those, and then the others don't see the second, you know, birthday. So a lot of the work we've been doing is how do we ensure that, yes, the penetration is happening, but how do we ensure we have strong partnerships around, you know, policy, around intellectual property, around the right type of financing that the entrepreneur needs before we are celebrating the solutions. Because as much as Tuvayo is great, if we don't ensure that there's the right policy environment to support Tuvayo, if we don't ensure that we are financing their brilliant idea to make sure it's going to the next level, if we don't ensure we're protecting it, if we don't ensure, you know, the cost of data for people who will go onto the platform, then the penetration will still be a problem, and we'll keep singing about and not be able to get the full potential that can come from, you know, leveraging technology as a medium, not as the end, to be able to create employment, but also to be able to create more opportunities within sectors like the tourism sector.
All right, you actually mentioned something key that was running through my mind, and that is the cost of internet, because we're talking technology, but the internet is key. It's very key. With your interactions, where are we, where do we need to be? That's number one. But also secondly, the role of the private sector in ensuring that we get what we need, because many of these businesses you're talking about, especially in the tourism world, they're private sector led, just like the rhetoric of Uganda is a private sector led economy. So I want you to look at where we are and where we need to be, and with the engagements therein, but also how the private sector can come in as a key player to enable this environment they require to have and operate in.
Where we are, we're making progress. I'm happy about the progress we're making. And personally, you know, it's easy to say so many things about the government, but I think for me, as someone who's worked in the innovation sector for long to be called a grandfather in there, we have one of the most cooperative or collaborative, you know, agencies when it comes to promoting issues around technology or government. We're currently working with Ministry of Trade, Ministry of ICT. We've done a lot of work with URSB around IP and clinics. But the end in mind is, like I said, we care mostly about the process, not necessarily the outcome. The end in mind is how do we create the right policy environment. So, for example, the Startup Act that we're currently pursuing is meant to ensure that things like financing for innovation, financing for entrepreneurs, tax incentives to big business that might work with entrepreneurs is catered for. So with this progress around ensuring that right environment that can support innovators is achieved. I think part of where we need to go, even with this progress, is again deepening the level of collaboration. Collaboration between whether it's private sector and public, but more importantly, asking the institutions that are in the best positions that they are currently in to do more than they're currently doing to support innovation. A good example is, if you look at big business, and it's very easy again to look at the government, but if you look at the big businesses in the private sector and look at how much profits are announced annually, there is a role big businesses, multinationals have to play in enterprise development beyond what they now call CSR, in how do we support in a way that's sustainable partnerships with enterprises, especially in a sector where this business has been able to grow. So if you're a big telco and you are generating growth from the technology industry, we need to be able to hold them to account to measure how much have they given back to the sector that is very responsible for their sector. So I think if we begin to see such collaboration, we'll begin to see ideas like we call corporate venturing, big corporate venturing to say we want to every year pick up 10, 15, 20 technology businesses and work with them collaboratively to grow the sector that has given us much more. So we've seen lots of progress on the government side, but I think for me the next battle is two battles actually. How do we get big businesses to play beyond what they call CSR, but also how do we get the right types of financing for entrepreneurs? Because an entrepreneur like Tubayo right now doesn't need a grant. They need growth capital that they can scale, and that is also a question that hasn't been answered. I think those two will give us great milestones in making sure that technology is living up to its billing of being an enabler of a sector. And I think I saw the president recently also talked about ICT and technology and creating opportunities. It does have the opportunity to be leveraged across sectors, but if we don't focus on what technology needs to be able to achieve that, then we'll keep waiting for some time.
Thank you so much. You actually mentioned the president, and I remembered what many would call the absurd when during COVID he tried to say the real economy and then called this the leisure and pleasure economy, and yet it is the sector that gives us the most when it comes to foreign exchange. But I'll be coming back to that aspect much later on. Bonita, coming to you, every tourist is special in their way. every tourist, because they're coming to spend, they're coming to view, they're coming to get what you're giving them as a service. But we would, if it's a rank, we would now start ranking and saying what sort of tourists do we want, and then comes in the products that one would want to call luxury, you know, the luxury tourists, the high-end tourists. How do we get to actually attract them? Are we getting them? What is missing, or what do we need to do to continue getting them? I would like to have a time where we are seeing the Air Force One coming here, not for a political visit, but they're saying, I am coming to do gorilla tracking or something like that, or visit the mountains or something.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be in Uganda. I'm really excited. So yes, I'll say Africa as a destination is actually a luxury product. It's just the way we're positioning it. So luxury is no longer ostentatious. You know, Dubai is something of the past. People want to see authenticity. People want to see or go to places where we're protecting endangered, critical, which we are protecting. For example, in Uganda, DRC, and Rwanda, we're protecting the endangered mountain gorillas. So that's what people are looking for. They're looking for that once-in-a-lifetime product, which we are as a continent and as East Africa offering. So it's actually relative. And I think one thing that we must know is who's our audience? Who are the people that are coming to Africa? 90% of the tourists that are traveling to our continent, to East Africa, are Americans. You want to look at the demographic and the age. You're looking at people that are 60 to about 80 years old, right? These are people who have saved their money, they have their pensions, the people that are quite wealthy, that are wanting to come to a destination to immerse themselves in our culture. That's what they're looking for. That for them is a luxury. So if you think you're going to build a 5-star resort with, I don't know, waterfalls and features that are not authentic to your destination, you're doing it wrong. They're actually coming to look for the green, the sustainability, how we're protecting the animals, what experiences are we offering, the food dining. And that's one thing that we don't do very well, is they're actually coming to experience our local food, but are we offering it to them? You're coming to a hotel in Uganda and then eating continental food. Why can't our food be gourmet or culinary food? Why can't we offer those experiences with our authentic products? So there's so much that we offer, but it's just the way we are positioning it, and perhaps not storytelling as we should. I think it's important that we're sharing the right content. And of course, it's key to understand what are the travel trends around the world, right? So we have wellness. Everybody's wanting to come. They will pay top dollar just to be outside and do yoga with birds. That's really what they want. So you don't have to actually build or invest in a huge spa. All they want is to be outdoors doing yoga, and these are the trends. So I think it's important to realize that we already have the product. We already have the clientele that are coming to the destination, but it's how we are positioning it, I think, which is quite important. And I think one thing as which Rwanda has done very well, is how we've positioned ourselves. And I do that as an operator. I know if I'm selling Uganda, I'll make the comparison. So if my client asks, so I want to go to Rwanda and Uganda, well, in Rwanda you'll have the more high-end experience in comparison to Uganda. But it's pretty much the same, but it's just how I'm selling it, sort of thing. Because I'm in the destination, so I make more money in the destination rather than bringing them to Uganda. But you have the product here. It's really how you are positioning it. It's the content, it's the storytelling, it's the personalization. You've got to understand these people have top dollar. They spend lots of money. Do not compare yourselves to Dubai. Don't build a Dubai. Dubai's already there. We already have a Middle East. People are going there to, be in a luxury car. They want a safari car while they're here. So I think it's important to differentiate yourselves and do not copy and paste. We have authenticity, let's provide that. So I think that's really important. And it's key to understand that the best way for us to do it, and just so you know, tour operators were very traditional. I'll be honest, technology and innovation, I don't understand it even. But I've had to adopt that as a business because that's what's happening. Social media, it's that storytelling on your social media. It's sharing, and I actually have a friend who's here. She came from Nigeria, and we'll talk about inter-Africa travel, which is incredibly important. She came because a friend of hers was in Rwanda, shared their experience on Instagram. She contacted me, then came. Then I said to her, I'm coming to Uganda. She actually came on her own, solo traveler. We have people in Africa, in Nigeria, in Ghana, that are mind blown when they see what we have here. They can't believe it. So she was just in Ginger for the last 2 days, and she said at Wild Waters, and she had the best experience. And she has already posted it on her Instagram. Next thing you know, people are wanting to come to the destination as well. So there's a lot. As a travel sector, we have to adopt the technologies because there's clearly a need for it. And social media, honestly, it's an easy sell. It's really an easy sell. It's just putting the right content that's appealing and having to adopt. But as I said, we're still traditional, but we must adopt the innovation and the technology that is available.
Thank you, Bonita. I'll pick it up from there. I'll be coming back to you. I love when you talk about authenticity. Don't give a Dubai in Uganda because that's not going to be happening. There is a Dubai. Let's leave it there. Let's have a Uganda here. Let me loop in from the technology aspect to Mehdi, and speaking to the role of ICTs in tourism development, is that something Uganda is picking up? And if not, is it about education? What do we need to do to ensure that we get on the boat because the cheese has moved?
Thank you, Mildred. Good afternoon, everyone. Interesting topic. The government, Minister of ICT and UCC, we have been approached on I'll put them in 3 different categories. One, the infrastructure. If I'm to take a sample now, we have people who are posting in real time what we're doing now. But behind it, there is infrastructure that enables it to be shared quickly. Now, the question earlier, we were asked, do we go and put masts in game parks where there's no traffic? So the businessmen, the MTNs, were not filling that gap. The government allowed us to, under Universal Communication and Access Fund, to set up connectivity in areas that are underserved. That connectivity enables everyone to have a seamless experience to be able to post what these people are talking about. That is one angle. The second angle is most of the civic activities and activism now is being done online. But the same criticism we are getting that we don't want to see can be turned positively into producing content of the sites we want done. Now, as a country, what we have done is we are training many youths, and the government is setting up many training centers. And we are encouraging them to shoot the beauty of the scenery and the uniqueness around their area. Once that content is shared, it will attract authenticity and uniqueness and exhibited. Then lastly would be the cost and affordability of the services. You know, the cost of fuel keeps increasing. Now, these are remote sites, and they are being run on diesel. We're trying to go green and adopt green energy and everything. So most people are going to say the cost of internet is high. But if I use the cost of fuel, has been increasing from 2,000, now it's almost 6,000. But we want the cost of internet to stay low and static, yet these generators have to be running 24/7 for you to enjoy a service. However, discussions are being held with government to see what tax incentives can be put in different places to ensure that there is affordability and uniformity in costs. Another issue is we're trying to tell people that ICT has developed. Most of the phones you're holding are actually more powerful than the laptops. And all the things you want can be done and edited in one single device. It's a storage, it's a phone, it's a picture, you can edit, you can post, you can receive, you can answer emails, you can book, you can work. Now, most of us are underusing those devices. So there needs to be mindset change and education to tell the people that actually these devices can do more than what you're using them for. So I think I will leave it at that. Thank you.
I think it's just picking up from the last 2 exhibitions, unfortunate exhibitions that we've had online. The health exhibition and of course the roads exhibition, unfortunately, which taint our image. So How do we counter now such negative energy online and in the sense of tourism? Like Bonita said, we have, I think we cannot even stop using the word gifted by nature, because it is definitely that and much more. How do we get to counter that, and using government institutions like Uganda Communications Commission to ensure that yes, we have the negative, every country has its own challenges, but we put out the positive as much in the same energy as we put out the negative? Especially for our youthful community, 76% very young.
Thank you, Mildred. I'll just give an example. The Commission runs the Uganda Film Festival, and this year we are celebrating 10 years. One of the initiatives we have done as part of celebrating 10 years, we have done a regional short film competition. We want the youths that have been training over the 10 years, we have a database of their contacts. We have sent them posters. We want them to produce 1 to 3 minute videos selling the beauty of the area where they are. Now, we are working with partners like UTB, Uganda Investment Authority, Uganda Wildlife Authority, to allow them access these areas. So for us as a commission, we look at ourselves as facilitators, and we have invited these partners to be the jury to choose which content would best sell the country in terms of content. Now the issue would be how willing are we to make it viral, such that, like Bonita said, people from outside the country can read it. Most of us find it easy to retweet negativity. Most of us find it difficult to appreciate the positivity. That's why I mentioned the mindset change. Yeah. You need to be telling them that it's okay to criticize and demand for service delivery, but it's also okay to sell what you have that's going to earn you money. Yeah.
I agree. I love that. I can't wait to have the 2-3 minutes coming through and people giving out the beauty that Uganda is. Let me get to Mr. Agaba. Intellectual property, very key. It's one thing for you to come up with an idea, product or service, whatever it is, and it can sell. But are we right on the spot with safeguarding, that's the word I want to use, safeguarding those products that we come up with as a country, or what exactly is the problem? Is it hard for us to do, to come and safeguard our patents and everything under URSB? Is it too hard, or are we just missing a point and it's an education that we need to have?
Thank you, MC, and good afternoon to you all.
Good afternoon.
First, maybe talk about URSB. Most of you most likely have dealt with us when you are registering your businesses. If you're in business and you are not formalized, then you need to do it today. You are not going to succeed in any industry without having your business properly registered. But the other service we provide, of course, we provide marriage services. I know we are developing an industry there. We provide one of the most efficient and trusted means in which you can go through this ceremony at a low cost with very little hassles. That's what URSB does. We also deal with entities that are insolvent, so we regulate or administer insolvency laws. If your business runs into headwinds and you want to close it, you deal with URSB. But I come from the intellectual property side. When we talk about intellectual property, most people think of a complex subject because it's intellectual property, so people easily relate it with something intellectual, so to speak. But the fact of the matter is that all of us use or create some type of intellectual property every single day. And particularly for the tourism industry, your biggest strength, of course, is in brands, reputation that you're trying to promote to your clients. And that's where type of IP called trademarks enters in. A trademark is a type of intellectual property that refers to any sign or mark that you use to distinguish your product in the market. It can be a word, or a slogan like Explore Uganda. It can be a word, it can be a logo, it can be mere letters or numbers or a combination of any of these things. And for anyone to succeed in the market, you must have some kind of brand, because it is the brand that your customers, it is through that brand that you connect with your clients or customers. We all know that as businessmen, we are selling brands. The client is buying a service, but for you, you are selling the brand. You are selling the trademark. This is where the value of everything that you create or you promise a client is secured in your trademark. So if you lose or you cannot control how your trademark is used or how your trademark is enforced, then you will lose the whole value upon which your business is based. It doesn't matter how many buildings you have, how good your hotel is, how good your service is. If there is something that makes you lose your brand, then there will be a problem. So as URSB, we provide a service in which you can secure that trademark to ensure that you have exclusive rights to use it in the market, to ensure that you are the only person who can determine how your brand is utilized by the users. What we have discovered in the context of tourism, for example, is that Uganda already has a reputation. They were talking about authenticity, for example. We are a generous people. We are a very hospitable people. We have a very beautiful country. Of course, for us who are inside here, we are looking at potholes. But everyone who has come here, I had a conference about 2 months ago, and everyone wanted to come to Uganda because of food. Claiming that most of them were coming from Southern Africa, and in their life they've never seen a buffet that stretches a distance with different types of food. Now this is a reputation we already have, something that we don't need to do anything except be ourselves. What are we doing to brand it and protect it? So URSB offers you these services to protect your brand. We believe that tourism is an important gateway in which trademarks can protect those things that create value for our local communities. IP will protect the tourism ecosystem which values our local services and products. No one comes to Uganda to visit the Great Wall of China. You come here for the lake. You come here for the people. You come here for the flora and fauna. And this value or this thing that distinguishes out there can be secured. And we need to find a way then how do we harness it effectively in the market. But I've spoken a lot twice, but I can continue.
It's okay, yes. And we also need to know, is the tourism sector coming to trademark anyway? Or we need education on how to be able to trademark some of these products?
One of the challenges, of course, that we have is about awareness. Most of the people in business are promoting themselves. When they go out there, they are promoting me. But like I said, you are not selling you, you are selling your brand. When you are presenting something, you are presenting to me your reputation, the value associated with the product or service that you are making available. Me as a customer, I'm looking for a service, but you are selling the brand. But because of this lack of awareness, we have not integrated intellectual property in our tourism policies or strategies. You'll find someone who has a company, a tour and travel company, they came and registered it, they therefore formalized. They gave it a name, some kind of name which they're using. Maybe it's called Potholes Tourism Company. However, They have not gone ahead to secure it. So what happens is that an employee of your company goes and sets up another company. He comes and registers the brand called Unique Portals. Visit us in Uganda. And you have people coming to us complaining that I have all these people now running to my competition. This man stole my idea. And we asked him, did you protect your trademark? He said, no, I registered my company. It's not enough. So the first point of call is that you know about IP and how it works. Number two, register yourself. Ensure you register every trademark that you use in your business. I was following one of your premier tourist service providers, Mr. Wekesa, and he came to our office, learned about IP services. So every day he's holding an activity. I think now they are having a marathon. He comes, first thing he does, register it. He doesn't want anyone abusing the value he's creating. He doesn't want anyone running out with it. The second thing we need to work on as we integrate IP in our work is that IP helps us support the local communities. Let me give an example. If you have a hotel, you are going to be telling a story around your hotel because people want authenticity. So you will say, I buy all my vegetables from within 5 kilometers. That man, Mukasa, supplies all the vegetables you eat. The client will come and say, I want to eat organic vegetables from Mukasa. Okay? Now that is the value. Mukasa will be forced to raise the standard of the quality of his vegetables to be able to meet the standard of the client. So the money will easily, he will be uplifted. As I say, that the rising tide will lift all boats. So even a person who is not actually directly involved, through ensuring that the value you've created and protected as a brand, the story you tell around your brand is protected, will enable Mukasa to be a better performer in his community. Many countries use this to develop their economies. I think she spoke about Rwanda. I don't want to go even that far. Botswana, if you go to Botswana, it's a strange country. But one of the things they focus on is telling stories about them and how they've helped communities, people who were never interested in anything in their life. But because of tourism, there are certain standards that you must comply with, because you must show to the world the standard that the Botswana brand contains. The final thing, of course, in terms of integration is being proactive about our brands or about our trademarks. If you are thinking of a trademark, for example, one, of course, be creative about it. Don't come to us and say, my brand is water. I have, because my services are around water, I want you to protect water. And we tell you you cannot protect water because there is nothing, it doesn't distinguish you anywhere in the market. Two, when you want to protect your brand, you don't look at all the areas in which this IP has impact. Merchandising, for example, we're talking about ICT, setting up websites, all these other aspects. IP helps you secure the interest in all these other spaces so that you might or you should maximize the potential that you have within your brand. So be proactive. Don't limit yourself. I'm a service provider. I provide maybe trucks. Let's see how you can grow or extend your brand into all areas, because when you've registered your brand, you've integrated into your business. You might start getting people, for example, who can provide those services, like Tubayo here, people who have their homes. They are visiting Tubayo's homes. They are not visiting John's home. They are visiting Tubayo's homes. This is the power of intellectual property.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'll definitely be getting back to you. Bonita, I want to come back to you on the issue of packaging, because like you said, Africa in itself as a destination is a luxury. But you also get to see that, for example, if we could just go to East Africa, there are quite a number of similarities. For example, if you want gorillas, Rwanda will sell you gorillas, Uganda will, and probably another country. How would you advise, out of your experience with regard to packaging, that if I'm visiting a Ugandan gorilla, Ugandan quote unquote, it's different from that which I am going to see in Rwanda, because we kind of have quite a number of similarities. If you see Lake Victoria, it's crisscrossing a number of countries, so you're not going to say, I'm selling Lake Victoria of Uganda because it's the same water body that is flowing. The Nile is flowing through a number of different countries. Speak to us about packaging when it comes to luxury tourism.
I must say that East Africa, and we, as an operator, I actually sell East Africa as a region, and I sell it as complementary to each other destination, to all the destinations. I'm actually, and I think we're here with the East African Tourism Platform. I know there's Eve, I could see Eve, where the office is now in Rwanda, but we are actually intentionally selling the destination as the EAC, as we're part of the EAC community. And one thing's for sure is each destination is unique. You'll find with most of the Americans or the travelers that are coming to the destination, what we do is we sell 2 gorilla treks. So say, come to trek in Rwanda, this is the type of experience, it's the Virunga, but it will be completely different to you going to Bwindi. Does that make any sense? So what you're finding, and because it's such a short distance anyway, it's a 3-hour drive from Bwindi to Volcanoes National Park. So what our tourists are doing are starting in Kigali, visiting, Akagera Park, going to Volcanoes National Park, and then coming to Bwindi to actually trek the gorillas, because we're selling them as completely unique experiences because of the regions where they are. So we don't actually see the similarities. And then also you've got a number of parks in Uganda that offer incredible experiences. Then the culture, our cultures are incredibly different as well, and that's what people want to see. Our culture, our food is quite different. Of course, a country like Kenya, you have the ocean, so that is quite easy to be complementary to Rwanda, where we're landlocked. So I think what we are doing, and I will say for most of the operators, we're actually selling it as a region. And although people shouldn't see it as competition, I think everybody always assumes that we're quite competitive, but we're actually not. We're very complementary, and we work, and I promise you, I bring a lot of tourists to Uganda. I have actually from France, French-speaking travel agents that love Uganda. So what they do is they start in Kigali and then end up in Uganda. So we're actually selling it as a East African package rather than Rwanda versus Uganda or versus Kenya and that sort of thing.
I love the complementarity bit, because that's what works, as opposed to pulling ropes. The gorillas, the more gorillas have moved to this country and now they can move to Uganda. I think the complementarity works. Boris, I am coming back to you on the issue of the homes itself. And you talked about customer feedback. When we give products and services, it's more like, come to my hotel, eat, drink, go. I am not worried about how the experience was. I do not care to find out from you. What's been your experience with regards to seeking feedback? And sometimes the feedback can be really brutal and bring you down.
Thank you so much. So when it comes to issue of feedback, I think it's a national trend. I'm not bad-mouthing, but I think for Ugandans, you only give feedback when the experience didn't go the way you expected it to be. Yeah, and if everything went well, the client, the guest, keeps to themselves, right? It's us who go the extra mile through our customer service team and the marketing team to reach out to you. Hey, Mildred, how was your stay at that Tubayo home? How was the host? Even to the host, we ask them, how was Mildred when she came to your home? Because we know we are serving 2 people here. We are serving the homeowner and even the guest. So we need to know, did Mildred find 8 cups and she left 8 cups? So next time when you come back and we have red flagged you, we don't accept your bookings because you are disrespecting the property. So the issue of feedback, we have put the feature on our platform for people to give a review of their experience or the home. But we have come to see that people only review when things didn't go their way. And you asked the question about the negative energy. I think it's just some kind of mindset that people have. They are easy to put out anything that isn't good, just like you see the potholes and whatnot, but they're not telling people about how Wild Waters is the most
Instagrammable, yes,
one of
hotel.
the most beautiful lodges, right? They're not telling people how beautiful our Kampala is, yeah? They're just always ready to push out anything, but so it's a whole national issue. It's at a macro level that we have to deal with, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're continuing with this and we are going to go to the audience. But just before we do, remember earlier on we couldn't get Natalia's message, and I hope that this time we can be able to go through it. So for my panelists, I think your ears will be standing up wide because it's just a video, but you can be able to listen through. Apologies, we couldn't have a screen in front. So let's try this one more time and see if we can be able to listen from Natalia before we engage the audience. Okay. Let me ask the technical team to help just one more time, and let's see if we can listen to Natalia. May I please have the technical team? Just 1 minute. Okay, I will be getting to the technical team. I don't want us to lose any minute at all, and when they do come through, we will be sorting this out. Let me go back to Japheth on the issue of ICTs still. Just how far can ICTs take us with regard to tourism? Because someone is thinking, I have a station national park and all I can do is take some good pictures, record some videos, and that's just it. But also on the other hand, government thinks the private sector should be doing that because we're not going to get Ministry of Tourism to go take all the videos and be able to, put them on Instagram. How do we work together? Because collaborations is a key aspect to selling the country and selling the destinations, but in respect of ICTs.
Thank you for the question. I think for me, looking at it from ICT or technology or entrepreneurs, that in itself is the opportunity that we have. loves technology. Let us participate in creating the necessary environment, which I go back to policy, to capital, to skills, to infrastructure, to make sure that they are now in a position of using the environment we have put in place to build businesses. Now, when they build the businesses, also put in place the environment to make sure that these businesses are registered, are protected, and Tuvayo or any other company then becomes the unicorn that comes out of Uganda because of that environment put in place.
Okay, just before I leave you, like you've kept talking about, and earlier on you talked about the growth capital. For example, Tuvayo right now will need the growth capital. And I was just paying attention to where we are. Our budget ceiling is at about 50.92 trillion, but when we look at unfunded priorities, that's double our budget ceiling. So that means there's not going to be adequate for everyone. And when we're talking about, for example, developing tourism, everyone is going to say, let's go to Uganda Development Bank, because if you go to the commercial banks, the rates may not be as competitive. How also can we look into ICTs and technologies to, for example, get to crowdfunding? I've seen people trying to, get funding online without necessarily saying, let's have the government, let's go to the banks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at the life cycle of how innovation is financed, we're also not looking to the government to be able to give us, the resources the entrepreneurs need. There are multiple other avenues that we use to finance technology. We use things like we call them angel investors. Those are normally the first level people who would back a Tuvayo because they believe in the idea, they believe in the entrepreneur. They may not even understand the idea, but they believe in the team at Tuvayo. And then there are people who will give you seed capital. There are options around corporate venturing where, like they say, the big corporates can participate beyond CSR to finance innovation. More importantly, I see the biggest weapon or tool we have to finance innovation in this case can be policy. How can we make sure that investors can see Uganda as a destination to put their money in companies like Tuvayo? And that's not necessarily government money, but it's because of the environment that has been put in place. We're able to support innovators. And of course, I always tell innovators or entrepreneurs at early stage, you have no business speaking to a typical bank, because banks are not designed to finance entrepreneurship, especially at that risky early stage. You don't go to them. That's not their conversation. So it's not necessarily looking at financing from the government. I believe the government has done what it needs to do, but we now need to, the last battle is around policy as a tool to accelerate opportunities that we can use to finance innovators using alternatives.
All right, thank you so much. For those who just joined us, welcome. We're talking emerging trends, innovation, and creativity in the tourism industry. And earlier on, the person you see right on your screen is Natalia Bayona, who is from the World Tourism Organization, I beg your pardon, the Director, Innovation, Education, and Investment. We failed to get her earlier on, but let's try one more last time, and she will be speaking to emerging trends in the tourism and hospitality sector.
Hi everyone, it's my pleasure to be here today with all of you. First of all, remember that 4 years ago, when our Secretary General Surab Pololikashvili came to the UNWTO, he decided to include innovation, technology as part of one of his strongest pillars. Of course, today the UNWTO has at least 5 priorities inside this house: innovation and digital transformation, education, investments, sustainability, and of course, added value jobs. Today, we would like to start this amazing conference with how these pillars can help us to create a better society, how these pillars can help us to create a better tourism sector. Why innovation is crucial? Innovation is crucial because it's the power of youth. Thanks to innovation, we have the power to give the voice to the most youngest generations that it has. Different solutions when technology is part of the new ventures. When we talk about technology, remember that the startup ecosystem is key in order to talk about a sustainable innovation. When I talk about the innovation ecosystem, I'm talking about adding value to the 6 actors of the ecosystem that are, as you know, innovators, entrepreneurs, startups, governments, institutions or accelerators, innovation labs, corporates, investors, and the academia. Without those 6 working together, it's impossible to talk about a sustainable innovation. What are we doing inside the UNWTO? As you know, we have 4 programs that we're running today. The startup competitions, the innovation challenges, the tourism tech adventures are our key innovation forums, and of course, our innovation network. Thanks to those 4 programs, we have more than 10,000 startups that have applied to our competitions from more than 150 countries. The more used technologies are based on artificial intelligence, big data analytics, digital marketing, where augmented reality, virtual reality, and Internet of Things are crucial. These technologies has been really mature. Nonetheless, we have a lot to do. From the 100 subsectors of the tourism sector, only the innovation is going to 3 subsectors that are mobility and transport, e-commerce, and of course hospitality. But the question is, where are the innovators in gastronomy? Where are the innovators in health? Where are the innovators in manufacturing? Remember that when you build a hotel, where you build an amusement park that is part of the touristic chain, you need manufacturing goods, you need towels, you need fruits, you need a lot of things to create a new experience. Where is the innovation when it comes to meetings, incentives, congresses, and events? We need the power of youth, of the youngest entrepreneurs, of the SMEs, and of course of the startups to create new technologies and to help us to innovate not only in these 3 hotspots, if I can say, that basically are 50% of the whole innovation of the tourism sector. We need to diversify a little bit more on the different subsectors in order to have a 360 integral and complete innovation. Then, thanks to our programs again, our startups have raised more than $240 million. This only in the last 3 years. And this, once again, is aligned with joining efforts between the public and the private sector. I can say that thanks to the power of partnerships, we can, Amadeus, MasterCard, Globalia, Wakalua, the governments of Portugal, Argentina, Colombia, Spain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Macau, among others, have been supporting these programs, and thanks to them, today, innovation is a reality inside the UNWTO, and the connections has been done to create more than 100 pilot projects and more than 300 mentorship programs. In that way, we are helping the smallest to grow. So, innovation today has the challenge in not only in helping the tourism ecosystem to get more mature. The biggest challenge I see in the touristic innovation ecosystem is with the SMEs. As you know, tourism, the touristic chain is created by different actors, but 80% of those actors are small and medium enterprises. And unfortunately, during COVID times, they have received a lot of funds for surviving, not for investing in technology, not for investing on innovation. This is the moment where we need to empower the the SMEs to help them and to mind the gap in order to have a sustainable sector where everybody can use technology. That's why inside the UNWTO we created the UNWTO Digital Futures, a program that was launched during the last UNWTO General Assembly, which aim is to bring accessibility and to bring access to new technologies to the small and medium enterprises. It's really easy. You just need to go to the UNWTO website, click on the Digital Futures program. You need to enroll and to fill a form, and then we will, thanks to the partnership with MasterCard, we will be able to connect and to give you a personal assessment on where is your SME, where are your gaps, and what do you need to fill those gaps. We decided to create 4 verticals that are the most important technologies that are needed in our sector. The technologies are, first of all, digital payments by far. Second of all, cloud. Third of all, digital marketing. And fourth of all, everything related to artificial intelligence and how, through artificial intelligence, you can predict in different data-driven models. With those 4, the idea is to train more than 2 million SMEs and then to give them access to digital tools and to keep those tools into their own businesses. Without the power of the SMEs and without them digitized, we cannot talk about a modern tourism sector. When it comes to education, I am really passionate on this matter, and more than passionate maybe, it's my obsession. Why? As you know, tourism is the most important employer of youth and of women. But remember that 50% of youth working in tourism only have secondary skills. And 50% of youth desire to become an entrepreneur in the mid-future. So if we want to do things great, whatever we invest in education is a small amount compared with the impact of helping others to grow. Again, youth is a part of this priority inside the UNWTO. Education. What do we offer in terms of education? As you know, the education system has been experiencing a revolution thanks to COVID-19. So today, our strongest platform to train people is the UNWTO Tourism Online Academy, a place where top universities all around the world has been partnering with the UNWTO to upload massive online open courses and online certificate programs in order to scale up the way people are educated and to give access to the most vulnerable people that don't have the possibility to study tourism. I have here to thank to all the colleagues from Cornell, from IE University, from Le Roche, Lyon, École du Cas, PolyU from Hong Kong, Externado de Colombia, Universidad Católica de Chile, Swiss Education Group, among others. We have been partnering with the top league in terms of education to make education not only easier, but also to have added value content for everyone. Then, second part of our story, everything cannot be just online. So our second service is related to offline education. And when I talk about offline education, here is crucial what I'm going to say. 80% of the potential careers in tourism are only focused in hotel administration. That cannot be possible. As I already said before, the tourism sector is created thanks to the power of 100 subsectors. So we need to create and to update the curricula. We need to create a policy and public policies where tourism is part of the development on every single country. If we want to create touristic destinations, if you want to create a country as or to have a nation focused on tourism, the only way to go and to succeed in the near future, in the mid future, and in the long
Well, I guess this is what Japheth was talking about. The backbone needs to be a little bit stronger, reliability that we can be able to work with. Very unfortunate, we were almost getting completed with Natalia's, oh, sorry. I think the internet just jinxed us, but okay, we got just a bit of the message of Natalia. Very unfortunate we couldn't continue with it entirely, but we will proceed with what's happening here with our panelists, and then in just a bit I'm going to request for 2 volunteers, and I'll move around the microphones to get some questions to our panelists, and the technical team will also let me know whether Natalia is actually online, and in case there are any questions we can be able to refer some of those to her. Mehdi, coming back to you on the issue of technology and mainstreaming particularly, because as Natalia was speaking about, the SMEs, are they an easy target to loop in? Because I think there is a lot of informality that is going on, and I think this also will be able to have Mr. Agaba respond to it. Can we deal with this informality and boost our tourism sector? And how do we attract them? Because for them it's the push, the pull factors, the what is in it for me at the end of the day.
Thank you, Mildred. The SMEs, how do I approach this? You know, if I look at the creative sector, it is the most lucrative industry worldwide, and it has potential to employ anyone. Unknowingly, you're either a creator, a producer, but at worst a consumer. So somehow you're involved. Now the danger is most of the people involved enter there with talent and passion. Now, formalizing them, like you said, what would be the incentive that loops them in? As UCC, we think one of the incentives could be access to funding and protection from certain other predators. If government can prove that we are able to offer you a service, the SMEs would easily come on board. I'll use the example, UCC started a local content development support program that supports production of content, but we don't support content that is just replicating what is easily available. We want to support that content that is unique and people wouldn't be interested in funding. I'll give an example. Most of us in Uganda, we have kids, but no one is producing content geared towards those clientele. So I know there are very many partners, European Union, very many NGOs that want to fund that kind of content. Now, one of the requirements they want from these SMEs is you have to be a registered business. You have to have a TIN number. You have to have a registered business with banking details, because they're not just going to get cash and give it to an individual. So those are the initial steps that can be taken to loop in the SMEs, but also you have to understand that you need the SMEs for these people to creatively be able to express. So SMEs will always be there until, I know most people will advocate, remove the fees and everything, and we have waived the fees, but still there is a cost for me to be able to come to you and explain the basics. So even if we waive the registration fees and your license fees and all those things, there will always be new people onboarding. And we need to figure out a mechanisms of how do we effectively get to these people as a country. But it's also good to have them always bonding on. So the issue is, as a country, we need to come up with clear structures and implement them, but they need to be of value, and the stakeholders that we are targeting needs to be involved in the coming up of these structures.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Gaba, I would like to loop you in on the same and add another to that category of MSMEs, the category of women and youth, like Natalia clearly did say, and yet many of them have secondary skills. We're talking about intellectual property, we're talking about trademarking. Are these things that rhyme with that cluster of people, and yet they're employing a greater portion of the population in the tourism sector?
Like I started by saying, everyone who's thinking is creating some type of IP. Whether you're educated, whether you're an SME, whether a woman or a child, everyone who's thinking creates IP. Now, when it comes to formalization, we're talking about many registration. First, of course, is a registration of your business, which we do. The biggest challenge in terms of formalization has been access to our services. We used to be here in Kampala, then we established branches in all the regions of the country. It was still not enough. Today, as I speak, we have launched a system called the Online Business Registration System. And this system helps you to register your business from the comfort of your home, of your hotel, or wherever you are doing your business. You can find this service on your RSB website, e-services. And it's very simple, so much so that lawyers are complaining that we are putting them out of business. And I'm a lawyer myself, so you can imagine how conflicted I am. But this is a system that has improved access to registration of your businesses. If today you want to create a group of companies, you can do that on a click of a button from your own home. Everything is done online. And when it comes to formalization in respect of intellectual property, again, like I said, it's a matter of registration. Maybe by show of hands, how many of you have registered your brands here?
Truth-telling time.
Yes,
feel free.
Very few. So thank you to those who have registered your brands. The rest of you, what is stopping you? I know one of the things is that it is a complex process. For protection of brands, actually, it's one of the simplest processes. There's only just one form you need to fill. The total cost will be between 300 and 500 Uganda shillings for a local company, for you to protect your brand, for you to create an asset that you can put even on your balance sheet and declare that this is an asset of the business, a trademark. So it costs you about 300 to 500, and you can do it yourself. Again, we have digital systems that you can use to file your applications. You don't need to come to offices. Again, when you go to the RSB website and visit e-services, you will find what is called, we call it front office, but you find a link where you can register your trademark. The other issue in terms of course, of formalization is that because you are not formalized, you are prevented from growing your business in the region. I can tell you that you can register in about 20 African countries using one set of fees, using one form through your RSB. It's called the regional system under the Africa Regional Intellectual Property Organization. You can register your trademark in Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Malawi, Namibia, Lesotho, Eswatini, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Seychelles, Mauritius, the Gambia, Cape Verde, Sao Tome and Principe, if you ever heard of it, and Mozambique. You can do this from Uganda. So if your business is going to grow in all these markets, you can register your brand there through URSB. Using one form in one language, for example, in Mozambique they speak Portuguese, but you can file your application in English, and using one set of fees. So this is one way we demystify formalization. You can do this yourself. If you fear, get a lawyer, but ensure that you have the additional money you have to pay the lawyer. And when it comes again to formalization, of course, IP's value is in its use. We have established a unit at our office to help you enforce your rights. If someone infringes on your brand, we have a police unit whose job is to enforce trademark counterfeiting, because the value of your IP is in the usage of that IP. I know I've spoken about one, but there are others that you can also use, such as industrial designs, which protect how products look like. We have patents. These patents protect inventions. We have copyright. Copyright protects literary and artistic works, things like films, music, books, and so forth. But all the ways in which these services are made available, I mean trademark services are made available, also cover all the other types of IP. So formalization is something we have to fight. Now, for all of you who are here who have not registered your brands, ensure that today you start on the process. For the trademark 300,000, you have 3 months to complete the payment of that money. 3 months, because by law it takes about 3 months to register your trademark. But when you get protection, you get it from the day you filed your application. So if it is today, after 3 months, protection will have started from today, despite you receiving the certificate then. So register. Okay. And share this message out. I thank the organizers of the Expo. Thank you for inviting us, because we are actually going to come to you in the industry. Next year we'll be visiting you. Organize yourselves. If you have specific questions on the use of IP, how to manage it, how to ensure you create additional value from it, all these issues we can share with you at no cost. And we hope you will succeed in the market. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for my panel. Very interesting conversations coming in from them. And for those who are online, in case you have any questions, please send them through. Now I'm going to request, I'm wondering who is holding my microphone from the technical team. Whoever has a question, feel free to raise your hand. You can tell us what your name is. If you have a direct question or supplement to what the panel has so far said, you get to feel free with that one. So I'm trying to see who in the audience wants to be able to speak to us. Many a times the first person's hand comes up very, very slowly, and then after that we get so many other questions. Any comments, any questions, any supplements to what the panel so far has said, and also that coming in from online? Do I have a hand anywhere as yet? Oh yes, there is a hand right behind. Thank you. I can give you mine? Can't pick mine. This is fine. Sorry about that. Okay.
Thank you so much. My name is Caleb Zomhanji. I work with local government in the district of Kanungu, where tourism is a big thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to find out if someone registers registers with you as part of his intellectual property. Is it renewable or you register once? because we have so many SMEs who ask about that and wanted to be able to guide them well.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Gaba will be able to respond to that, whether registration is renewable or not. Any question else that is coming through from the audience? Yes, there is just one right there. There is another question right there behind, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Herbert Banovi. I also come from Kanungu near Bwindi.
Wow.
My concern is about the gap between this forum and where we expect innovations to happen. I believe, in view of tourism, our resources that we are proud about are all on our land, and the custodians of the land are majorly not here. They own what is very exciting on the ground that would make a very good complement to whatever tourism we are trying to push. But all this that is going on now, there is a gap between the knowledge of what is required and the implementer, who is the most important stakeholder and in custody of the resources we are talking about. Our tourist attractions are all in LC1. So how are we going to bridge the gap and make sure the right target audience of who should be responsible for our tourism is aware about all this, and the opportunities can also flow to make him benefit? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Herbert. And I think Herbert's question will go to all the panelists, if we can be able to weave it through. We are here talking, the local people always say you're talking a lot of English, but do the people who we are targeting actually get this kind of message? All right, any other question from behind? All right, go ahead, yes.
Yeah, good evening to you, comrades.
Good evening.
My name is Daniel. I'm a tour operator, a tour consultant as well. My question goes to UCC and Uganda Tourism Board. The private sector or the tourism operators have a lot bleeding in regards to media. A lot of negative message portrays bad about Uganda as the tourism industry. I'm looking at a situation whereby something wrong happens, like for example, the Ebola that came up, and information about Ebola is moved so fast in media. Let me say media, television stations, I'm not going to mention any names, but then also comes up to social media. I want UTB or UCC to help us, guide us through on that, because I'm looking at somebody who is seated behind like me, who is endeavoring to convince a client to convert, to close a deal or a business, which is not only going to benefit me, but it's going to benefit UTB and benefit the country as well. Take, for example, let me give a budget of like maybe $3,000, and I know UTB, or let me say UCC is going to cover up, a country is going to cover up, let me say roughly about $500 from me. Then let me say times about 500 or 100 companies. I guess that is some money, might be little, but that is money. So how do you help us to convince the media not to portray so much negativity, because in the back end, it's making business hard for me to close up the deal? Thank you.
Guilty has charged truthfully. Negative news spreads a little bit faster than the positive. Thank you very much, and I think that's a question that is going to be answered and by any UTB official who is within, how we can be able to have the media also portray the good that the country has. Any other question before we can have this round of questions answered by the panelists from somewhere behind? Okay, just before we get any other question, let me first get back to my panelists, and I don't know.
between the various policies that are designed to affect the local person. How do you ensure the tourism policy impacts on agriculture or touches on medicine or health or touches on any aspect? How do we create those linkages, then have a coordination mechanism for us, because we're not going to reach everyone everywhere, but there is someone reaching him or her over something. So how do we create that link? And it is important that we find a way we can coordinate these kinds of things that we're undertaking to be sure to have a whole government approach first, but also secondly to leverage on those who have resources or access to these people we want to reach. For the IP policy, which was established in 2019, there is a coordination mechanism. And in that coordination mechanism, you have various ministries, including this ministry responsible for tourism, to see how intellectual property can play a role in tourism. And maybe finally, to note that we are also aware already of the needs of these local communities. You talked about the things taking place on the land. We are currently working on a law to protect our traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expressions. As you may be aware, there is no such law that protects this kind of knowledge, and this law will help us to ensure that we secure this knowledge through protection and be able to transmit it to the market for value. Anyone now can come and do whatever on your land, and there will be no obligation for them to give you a return. But we are making sure that this knowledge that you already have in the local communities will be protected, one, and there will be formal mechanism of exchanging it with the market and also for the local communities to benefit. When the time comes, I can assure you we will consult the local governments when we are presenting the law to Parliament. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I will come to you, Mehdi.
Actually, I thought you would take it on because the gentleman seemed to hint that media practitioners,
True.
It's a delicate balance. You know, I understand you have to make money, but there's also public interest that we need to care for in terms of the bigger picture. I understand now, and that brings the message home. How do we communicate as a country in times of emergency, in times of outbreaks? How do we pass on the information in a manner that is not sensational and alarming? Yeah? Like I said earlier, most of us have been wired to retreat negativity. So the media practitioners themselves and the government needs to figure out a way of standardizing communication. If we do not standardize the message going out, everyone will interpret it differently. I'll give the example of the Ebola outbreak in Mubende. It was only Mubende under lockdown. But the way it was communicated looked like the whole country was under lockdown. So that's why it is important to standardize. And like I said earlier, the phones we hold now can edit. And as regulators, we have been having very many meetings with those people who watermark. There's a big difference between the original broadcast by NBS and what is being recirculated. Most people repurpose the content for different reasons. And to the ordinary person receiving the message, it's hard to differentiate because all the logos are there. It's the same person, the same color. It's Mildred in yellow with red on NBS logo. But AI now, there are deep fakes that you can't actually tell which is original and which is fake. But I agree, it's something that we have to continuously work towards standardizing how, as a country, we communicate in terms of emergencies and outbreaks. There's no magic bullet because we have professional media houses, then we have media personalities, then we have celebrities, then we have experts, and everyone, each interview, you're going to get a different message.
Yeah.
So there is that possibility. Everyone has the understanding and perception, but everyone wants to be heard. So it's something that we are working on, and we continuously work with media houses to tell them, This is the message. If you want to interview and get the right facts, get the facts from the Minister of Health regarding Ebola outbreak. Don't come to me to ask me about Ebola. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't recommend for Minister of Health. So it's a work in progress.
Thank you very much. I would also like to to tell you that we actually receive a lot of letters from Uganda Communications Commission. But I agree with Mehdi when he talks about the greater good at the end of the day. And with the rise of social media and citizen journalism, it's even becoming harder. The gatekeeping role that was played by traditional media is becoming harder because, I mean, you meet an accident scene and someone will just record and send out without even a warning, without blurring pictures. You've seen how, pictures of probably even dead bodies will just be sprayed out. Someone not even thinking about the emotions of the relatives or the family who is getting to know about probably a death or something terrible on the phone, on their WhatsApp. You can imagine that. So I agree that we need to live more responsibly, but education as well is very key for the people to know that, yes, Uganda has its problems, but it also has the very good things. But also the other countries we aspire to go to have their own problems in as much as they have the beauty that we admire from them. I don't know if Mutoni has something to say about especially working with the grassroots structures. He was speaking about Kanungu, and this could be from an experience of the works that you've done in the different countries. For example, you will find a district with vast tourism potential. Someone is living just right next to a crater, does not even know the potential that Crater Lake has, but they have their small grass thatched house, and there seems to be no collaboration to have this person gain value from that beauty, from that potential that they're living right next to.
I think that's a really good question. I think it's important for them to understand, and for the government actually, and I think this is it's important for the government to communicate how these tourism developments will impact the local community. So for example, and I'll speak of Rwanda,
yes.
With the gorilla permit, it's $1,500, but there's a percentage that goes towards the local community, and they know that. So we're talking about people that were poaching that are now protecting and conserving the gorillas because they understand what the benefits are to them. And you could clearly see it from the district around. The infrastructure has developed, and they actually will. It's important that the government actually communicates, or the conservation. I mean, you have the WCS who are here, you have Africa Wildlife Foundation, who should actually be able to communicate to the locals how they'll benefit from the tourist sites that they're around. So, and Kanungu is incredibly beautiful. So I think it's important for there to be awareness from the government and for the private sector to develop around this so that we're actually able to employ local communities and also upskill them, build the capacity. And that will definitely encourage them to preserve these tourist sites.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, CK.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, and for me, it's how we see life from the entrepreneurship side of things. It's more, if you look at the example of Dubai when I was explaining some of the statistics, they have brought, using technology, they have brought about 60,000 visitors into local communities, and they have created about 1,500 jobs. So that's a missing gap that can be filled by leveraging, technology and entrepreneurs and how they involve local communities and experiences. Now, for the case of Tubayo, they sell experiences that are as far as the community he's coming from. So the more we support a startup like this to scale and grow up, the better we begin to unlock those hidden opportunities within our communities. That's how I'd see it. But then we've also, so the role we play as Innovation Village is to build business. Every entrepreneur I'm looking at is how are you building your business to employ more young people. So we've worked with the Young Tour Operators Association, who came to us, and there were 13 organizations when the conversation started. Right now, there are about 150 organizations that are not just in Kampala, but also come from communities like, as far as wide. So I think a role we can play here is also how do we then begin to partner with communities and parishes, LC1, to say, begin building the business mindset, which we hope either joins up with an association or becomes the next experience that can be launched on a platform like Tubayo.
All right, and Boris, I'd like you to give your own perspective of how you've been able to deal with communities, what the experience is at first and right now where we are, because I don't want to believe that when you introduced this idea, it was easily received with warm hands. What have been the lessons along the way? What were the pitfalls, and how have you been able to loop those gaps?
Thank you so much. So definitely in the beginning, we are ideally the first people trying to tell people that you can book something online and you don't see me, like you can book everything online, right? But as you know, you here, when someone is telling you pay for an item, you want to see who you're paying to. You want to pay physical cash. So in 2019, that approach gave us a really hard time. From our inaugural registration, our first business came after 6 months. Like, we were trying to convince someone that, hey, use an online platform, yeah? So that's just the customer, because even the people you want on the platform want to come when they see that they are customers, yeah? But with consistency and being part of community, the associations that he's talking about, like the young tour operators, those were able to help build trust within these clients that we are trying to approach. So with that, we're able to show them the success stories. We show you that we extended this opportunity to one Adam who didn't know that he can actually have his tube in the Nile on an internet platform which can be accessed across the world, and anyone can book for him for it before reaching Ginger itself, right? So in the beginning, it wasn't easy, but with consistency, we have been able to do some bit of penetration, and it all went back to the partnerships, yeah? So when our brother there was saying the issue of Kanungu, recently the UTB was running Explore West, right? And Explore West was entirely run by the Uganda Tourism Board, right? But if we ask them what kind of impact did it create, but if they had taken maybe an approach of going through these registered tour operators that they have, they were going to have a larger pool of people who are already in the tourism sector who can reach the Kanungus that they're talking about, right? And that way, it is the value chain, it goes down to that person who doesn't have access to Kampala. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to take another round of questions, but just before we come back, I want to come to Mr. Gaba. Bonita talked about the idea of our uniqueness, our diversity. And when she talked about food, let me first of all just ask a question. What's the unique food Uganda has, or fruit or vegetable? What's unique with Uganda? Anyone who wants to give a chorus answer? What's unique? When you come to Uganda and eat, I know most of us here have traveled, and you know how hard it is for you to find something that will keep you. So what do you think is unique about Uganda? Just a few chorus answers. Organic food, but which food? West has, East has, Central? Groundnut, someone says groundnuts, Okay, Eshawe from the West. Yes, please. Sweet pineapple, I expected that, definitely. So many guests who have come and they said, I think I want to carry all the pineapples and go with them. Okay, so you have groundnuts, you have pineapples, you have Eshawe from southwestern Uganda. Okay, what more? You see, just that tells you that we have a variety. I know people who have talked about our bananas are sweet bananas, and it's the real sweet, the real word, not bananas just yellow. Now that's where I come, Mr. Gaba, on IP patenting and trademarking this. How with all this diversity, for example, could someone be able to patent something from a section like the food, our culture? Because all these are unique and someone could easily be able to take it up, but how do I, first of all, it's not mine, the food doesn't belong to me, the tradition is not mine personally. It becomes a complex issue to synthesize. Is there a possibility?
Thank you, Tracy. I think that is a very good question. Protection of our traditional knowledge or traditional cultural expressions. The current legal framework, things I've spoken about, trademarks, patents, industrial designs, geographic indications, these types of intellectual property rights have certain limitations. For example, for copyright, we must know the author of the song, and it is this author that is protected by copyright. But when you go to a traditional performance like which one? A traditional performance. Yes, so any local traditional performance, Amagunju, is it? Yes.
Raka.
Yes, or Lakaraka. Who is the author of this kind of performance or
and that's where the problem comes, because
yes.
This dates back in history.
Yes. As you know, all of you, there was another rap. You remember another rap by His Excellency? And people came and said, this is for Ankole, but we said, okay, who in Ankole? Under copyright law, we must know the author. That's the first limitation of the current IP framework. The other limitation is time. Again, if you look at copyright, I said copyright protects literary and artistic works, so music, films, books, computer databases, sculptures, photographs, these kinds of things. It is limited also in time of protection. For copyright, the author is protected for their lifetime plus 50 years. And then, yes, after you die. So during your lifetime, your song will be protected, and plus 50 years after death of the author. But when you talk about a Magunj, for example, this thing has been there forever, and it continuously adapts to different times. People keep adding certain things or adapting it to the time, so it's not limited in time. So we found that the current legal framework really does not lend itself to those unique aspects that identify us, that reflect who we are. Music, food, language, even ways of worship. I know some people, a white man came from Texas, and he could not believe how people danced in church. He was like, what is this? So these unique aspects that make us who we are cannot be protected by current framework of intellectual property. So we are working on a law that I told you about, traditional knowledge and cultural expressions law. This law will be able to protect these kinds of expressions. It will be protecting things like Luombo, Malewa. All these aspects will be covered under this law. This law will cover these areas where things are gray. So instead of having the author, what is protected is an expression of an indigenous community or a local community. The benefits will not go to one individual. They'll be going to a whole community. So they can build a school, they can build a road or hospital or whatever. And we believe that this is where we have a competitive advantage. And that's what everyone says, that this is what is authentic. People, the things that people think for us, we think they are normal. For certain people, this is what life is about. So we need to ensure that we protect them and we derive benefits from them rather than sharing them freely as we are doing right now. As I speak now, this law, we are going to the cabinet and soon we'll be going to parliament. So hopefully by mid next year, we should be starting to talk about how we're protecting Luombo and these kinds of things.
Well, I think that deserves a round of applause because the biggest elephant in the room was when you asked the author, who is the author of Eshabwe? Who is the author of Malewa? Who is the author of all these dances that we have, including the games, Mweso and Kwepina, whichever games that you can get to think about. Before we get to a final remarks from our panelists and any other expressions that they do have, do we still have any clarifications? Do we have anyone who wants to say something or ask a question? Okay, I am kindly requesting, who has my microphone? I have two hands right on this table here, or I'll give them mine as well, please. Right on the first table here, yes. Any contributions as well to the discussion?
Yeah, thank you. Mine, I'm a bit puzzled about the innovators. Is there any control of these innovators who abuse at the end? Take an example. Yesterday we were talking about luxury end in massaging. It is an innovation, but how do you protect the end product? Thank you. I'm Albert Mkundani.
Thank you, Albert. Your neighbor had a question? Yes.
Thank you. My name is Bradford Cheng, Deputy CEO, Uganda Tourism Board. I think this one goes to URSB. I was getting happier and happier because of the protections and specifically to tourism. Looking at coffee tourism and looking at arts and crops. And I remember at one time, I think we were working on, there was a law on GI, geographical indications, where GI is basically tracing a product to where the origin is, similar to what you were saying. And based on my understanding, the law was already there, and I think we're just trying to regulate it. Do you think this is one way that would really try to protect like dry Arabica droga from eastern Uganda, maybe arts and crops from Karamoja, like the beads and all that, just start working in a way. Where are we? And if the law has been there all this time, why don't we regulate to start implementing some of these processes? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have the lady here, and there is another hand on the other table. And okay.
So mine's not really a question, but as you said, to contribute to the conversation. I think, there's a lot of talk about patenting, and while we can wait for it to get to that point, I think, because it's a bit of a gray area, how do you patent a game? How do you patent an entire culture? It's about taking ownership. In the UK, there's a brand that came under fire because they tried to patent the word Yoruba. So that just shows you, if you don't do it, someone will. If you look in Rwanda with the Agasake, with their cultural symbols, they've taken ownership and really made it synonymous with their brand, with their visibility. So it's almost impossible for someone to come in. Because when you look back in different cultures, you'll find even Versace and all these big brands have taken what a lot of these symbols and really deeply rooted cultural symbolism and made it theirs simply because we didn't think to take ownership of it, draw light on it, and make it synonymous with our brand, with our culture. And the same can be said for food. How are you going to, patent food? Why not make it part of a circuit of your tour? Why not make it something that's really intrinsic with the way you, explore tourism in the country as well? So I think it's less about waiting for these laws as well. In the meantime, it's what can you do to really take ownership of this and shed light on it, because someone else will if you don't.
Thank you. I love when you say if you don't do it, someone else will be able to do it, and that's the reality. That's very true. Let's move the microphone there and then to your back afterwards.
Okay, thank you. Paula Twine from Ubalak Safaris. I work with Bonita. One thing I would say, the panel has cut across a number of areas that really build into the innovation for the industry. But one thing I've noticed that kind of stagnates the growth or the scalability of most of the programs is most of the players are operating in silos. So I'll give you a good example. Like, for example, if you came up with a unique experience in a community, it goes back to that competitiveness. But if it's something that you would sell to other tour operators, it won't be long before the community eventually adopt that activity and realize that they can actually be impacted from it and benefit from it. And then it escalates to the itineraries of the tour of the DMCs and the travel agents. So at least by the time it makes it to the itinerary, then you have more and more people going to the location. A good example would be the Singita. They set up a culinary school and taught members of the community in the park how to cook. And it's one of the experiences that we actually add to our itinerary. So when someone goes there, you can cook with them, learn from them, talk to them, understand their journey, and also make a donation to sustain. Now, most times you'll find that even by the time someone has come to a destination, they may have extra money that they can put towards just sustaining a program in the community. But again, it starts from things not being siloed. Earlier, I was telling our guest from Nigeria that, have you tried the dried fruit, the pineapple? She was like, I've not tried that. But again, whoever innovated that, like within his circle, that's where it will end. So the thing is, for things to be really scalable and to reach a point where policy is actually now cutting across and everyone is benefiting, we can no longer have products or experiences packaged, developed, or marketed in silos. Thank you.
Thank you. Very, very key. Even when it comes to Uganda, I think we are starting the program-based approach to encompass everything in one. There was a hand right behind before we get to back to the table at the front.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Shakil from Afro Smile Hotel Jinja. I have a question with Boris about Tobayo. You said that we have now, like we are now developing about the technology like Tobayo. What is the source of marketing now? And second thing, are we also working with the institute about tourism, hospitality, that the students are getting trained by those institutes are able to do optimization on that Tobayo? Thank you.
Boris, you didn't get your questions right. Kindly repeat. Boris didn't get those.
My question was that what is the source? Now we got the technology, okay? Now what is the source to approach to every hotelier's marketing so that we reach to everyone easily, like easy optimization? And are we also working same time with the institutes like Christed Crane in Jinja or other institutes are teaching hospitality? Are those students also able to learn about optimization like on booking.com and other platforms? Especially we will focus on Tobayo as well because it's now our home now, right? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Boris, you did get those right? All right, please. We have one on the table before we get back. Okay, I'll take him and take him at the back and get about two more before we come back.
Thank you. My name is Ivan. I'm a resident of Kisoro. Very beautiful place, just like Kanungu.
A corner of Uganda.
Absolutely. Mine is a contribution from my observation in what I've seen in that space. A lot of the tourists I've seen coming, they just come for the gorillas. They fly in. There's even a flight which goes, I think, to Clouds, direct, and people fly out. And I think we're not maximizing the potential of this value chain. And as a result, I don't think the communities especially are getting a lot. So nobody's going into town. We could have like a coffee experience. You could have a community kind of tourism activities. I'm not saying that they're completely zero, but I think for the benefits to
scale them up.
Yes, to trickle down to even the local community, we need to think activities like my brother had just said here, like that experience of the culinary school, so that the itinerary can allow these visitors not to be there for one day, but at least 3 or 4 days.
Thank you very much. Let's take the microphone to the next table, sorry. Oh yeah, right behind, right, second table. Yes, the gentleman is right there in a gray suit.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Gatera from Rwanda, and I run a travel company based in Kigali. Mine is also kind of a contribution, but I also seek some clarifications from gentlemen on the panel. I like the fact that they talked about the copyright, but some of us, the entrepreneurs, more especially the startups, sometimes they get worried. As they said, get ready to patent your products, but be ready also to have money to pay the lawyers. So at some point, you can do the copyright, but there are some people out there also ready to copy and copyright because they have the money to pay the lawyer. So,
I love.
Anyway, so I want to know on that case if you have a serious law that just in case someone infringes on your copyrights, that actually pushes them away from, getting into that line. And you talked about if you copyright, it is easy also to be applicable in other countries like Rwanda. If I register in Uganda, is there any cost if something really infringed on my copyrights? How do I hunt down that person if I'm based in Uganda and the person is using my brand in Rwanda? So does it come with a cost? Is it efficient? Because we have seen even big brands not really being successful. We're talking about like Nike, the counterfeit, products coming with no logo to the local market here, with those logos in the pockets, they stick on the shoes when they arrive. And then unless if you had probably a law that also, penalizes the end user of the product. So I think it could be applicable. Otherwise, it's very tough. We have seen our local patterns in Africa. We talk about kitenge. All these kitenge from Congo, from Rwanda, from Uganda, all the fabrics, all the patterns being printed directly from China, and they are being sold, and it's acceptable. It seems like it's normal to sell wholesale on local markets. Yet these are African products, but being manufactured out of Africa. So I think on the case of copyright, I want to hear if there is anything that cooks up in the copyright department. And also, I want to talk about a little bit on the content part with the UCC. And also, it's kind of also a comment to all of us that we are journalists ourselves. We have to really be careful on the content that we post on the platforms. It's kind of a trend that people are posting on social media platforms, Instagrams, but these platforms are not managed by us. So what we post like fun, because most people, and actually most foreigners, have come to make money in Africa because it is still authentic. So they capture the bad content because it sells better. So it gives them more views. So they make money, they get paid outside, but actually what they're portraying locally is not good for us. Is there anything that UCC does to filter? Some systems have strong firewalls. I've been to one of the prominent countries in the West that many people admire to go to. But when I reached in this city, the locals were telling me, oh, please don't go in that line, it's not safe in the evening. But when you're here, you cannot know it's not safe. You can, because they keep their content to themselves. So thank you. Maybe I will not talk too much. So,
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. But that was great for the conversation. I don't know, UCC, if you have to get a firewall that every time I post and it's negative, it just seems it doesn't go out and just merely trashes it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have less than 30 minutes to be able to end this off, but just in case you feel like having some caffeine, I know we're about to step out, just in case you can't stand the next 20 minutes before we go out, feel free to pick a cup of coffee outside. I know there's so many questions to Mr. Gaba, and I just want to add one and start off from you and then go to the other panelists. I want to add one, especially that you talked about the traditional knowledge and cultural expressions law. And you were talking about some of these, for example, the food, the culture, and everything. What happens with cross-cutting culture and food, for example? I want to give an example, say, in Toro, you will find Firinda, where they make beans minus, you know, the outer layer, and then you will find it in Bunyoro, and probably you're finding a dance in the West Nile, cross-cutting to maybe Lango. Is that a consideration you're looking at? And so if they're sharing the benefits, how is that going to be dealt with as well? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe let me first start by defining what traditional knowledge or cultural expression means. So traditional knowledge refers to knowledge that has been sustained from generation to generation and constitutes part of the identity of a given community, usually an indigenous or local community. This knowledge is expressed in many ways, so it can be in art and culture. You have masks, you have paintings, you have all these kinds of things, you have language. It can be in food, it can be in technologies that the community uses. It can be in simply knowledge, so medical knowledge, knowledge for smelting, knowledge on how to look after cows. All this type of traditional knowledge constitutes part of that subject. Now, world over, there hasn't been many laws that provide for protection of this kind of thing. Negotiations have been taking place at the World Intellectual Property Organization for over 20 years. And one of the things that create confusion is some of the questions. For example, what you have asked, cultures that I'm in Uganda, moved to Germany. Someone went to Germany and registered back cloth. What's back cloth in Uganda? Yes. He registered it in Germany, but the lady was from Uganda, although the man was from Germany. These are the questions. So is she protected? I mean, does she need authorization from local communities? These kinds of questions. So over 20 years at the World Intellectual Property Organization, there have been negotiations which have been intractable. However, last year, countries managed to agree to establish a treaty to provide for protection of traditional knowledge and genetic resources. You also know about plants and animals which exist in our environments and over which we have knowledge that is very useful to the world. You know about Covidix, for example, but that's local, but also international. Most of the pharmaceutical products are based on knowledge that is acquired from you. The scientist comes and says, you tell me how you heal this bone. So he said, oh, they are going to write about me. You tell the person everything, and he goes and synthesizes your information. The plants you've identified creates a drug, and it costs $60,000 a dose. The knowledge came from you, you are not even aware, and you have not benefited. So last year, members of the WIPO agreed to establish a treaty on traditional knowledge and genetic resources. And we are hoping that we'll have a diplomatic conference. It's like a conference where you sit and agree on actual wording and sign it off before the end of this year. Why is that important? Because this knowledge, whereas it's produced here, it is mainly exported and exploited outside of our continent. Most of us, our culture is that we share this knowledge freely. That's what distinguishes us. If I know how to make a backcloth, I want to teach everyone. We had no commercial value or that business sense from the West here in Africa. We used just to freely share things. And these countries took advantage and took away most of our knowledge. But it will stop after we have had this treaty, hopefully. Which also speaks to what I think the comment she made, that we need to do some protections right now. Yes, there are mechanisms you can protect this kind of knowledge, but they are inadequate. South Africa has something called rooibos tea. You know rooibos tea? You've heard of it? Yes. You cannot find it in the United States. The simple reason is that a woman, a tourist, came and said, wow, this is very nice. She goes and registered a trademark in the United States. South Africa tried everything to cancel it and they failed. So we need to be proactive and protect certain things. I received a letter recently, someone said that the word matoke had been registered in the United States. And this problem was that now they are not going to export matoke. Of course, they are not going to export bananas called matoke, that's for sure. They will have to find another name. But we need to be proactive. And this is what I was talking about, linking our policies with other policies to be able to address some of the gaps that exist in those other spheres that affect us. Then the other issue was on protection of copyright, the cost of enforcement. Intellectual property rights are private rights. The owner of the trademark, the owner of copyright, the owner of the patent is the one who has the responsibility of enforcing their rights. Our job is to help you in that process. The cost is there, but you should not fail to start because there is a problem. First start, and then we'll deal with the problem. A gentleman, he was working in a bar and was making cups with I Love Kampala or KLA. And he was selling those cups for a good cost. And before he started selling, he had the good sense of registering his brand with URSB. So while he's in a bar, he sees someone with a cheaper version and said, where did you get it from? Some guy had imported a whole container of those things and was selling his at 5,000 when this guy's cups were costing 70,000. So he came to us, said, I don't have money, but I need to stop these people. We went down there and we sorted his problem. You no longer now see those things on the market. So if you have a problem, first go in the market, we will deal with the issues of cost. It's not easy, but it's part of doing business. There is nothing that costs nothing. But also, maybe another area we need to look at is also incentivizing SMEs by creating opportunities or stepping stones for them to grow. I know we are developing a policy either on SMEs or startups, and Japheth might have some knowledge on it. But one of the areas is how can we create favors for SMEs when they are starting out. For example, if registration of a trademark will cost 300,000, can we create a lower fee for SMEs particularly? These are the issues maybe through which this policy we are going to look at to be able to provide you a platform to grow. Because when you go out into the market, they are already hungry lions ready to eat you. Then on the aspect of geographic indications, yes, we have a law on geographic indications. Geographic indications is the way you hear it. It's an indication of a geographical place. So products that have unique characteristics that are attributed to a geographical place, those products, the name of that place can be protected as a geographic indication. All of you know about the potatoes from Kisoro. The man here was talking about Kisoro. Even if you get that seedling and you grow it in your neighborhood here, the potato will not come out the same. So we need to protect those names. You'll be surprised, there's a place there in Masaka that grows pineapples. And when they grow, you can't buy pineapples from them because there's a German company that comes and buys all those pineapples. And they grow in a particular geographical area. If you get a seedling and you cross it, it will be a pineapple, but it will not have similar characteristics. So we need to protect the name and ensure that this German company pays a premium on this product. And the strange thing is that it is foreigners who know about reputation of our products.
Yeah.
I learned about cassava from Kafu, from a foreigner.
Yeah.
They will tell you about the coffee from Bugisu. There's someone who was tasting coffee and says, this one is from Bugisu. I know it. But us, we don't even know what we have.
Yeah.
But we are starting. We have registered our first geographic indication for Rwenzori coffee. So if you're in the market and you see a trademark called Rwenzori Mountain of the Moon, it's a geographical indication for coffee grown over, is it 1,000 something meters above sea level in the Rwenzori region. The coffee has unique characteristics and the Italians know of it. They are the ones buying that coffee. Particularly, they say we want coffee that grows from this height and in this location. So we protected that, and it's our first geographic indication. So it will apply to tourism as well. If we decide to, if they tell you this product is made in Germany, what do you think of? Yes, you will think of quality, a lot of machining, and this kind of thing. So we need also to protect the reputation. If someone talks about part of Africa, what we're talking about? Fun, what, you know? Not potholes, not these kinds of things. So we need to look at what value we have as Ugandans and see what type of IP we would apply to communicate to the world and ensure the world pays us back. The final question was on protection of, if I got you correctly, luxury massaging.
Yes, because our touch could be different from anywhere else you could get a massage.
Yes, and you said that's the active word, the touch is unique to you. I can also start luxury massaging, but maybe my hands are too rough, so my products will not come out. There is no law in the world that protects mere ideas, just mere ideas. So the way I walk, I could have a unique way I walk, which people identify me with. I could have a unique way I talk. I could have a unique way I do massages, which that's just an idea. Anyone can do luxury massages, but the way you do it is what distinguishes you. Now what you need to do is then create a brand around how you do it. The same way people will say, me, I live in Ntinda, but I get my hair cut from Kabalagala. Yes, you drove all the way from Ntinda for someone to work on your hair in Kabalagala. You know, I know friends from Rwanda might not know. Kabalagala is just here and Ntinda is across town. Why? Because you have built a brand about your service delivery. So someone will come from overseas just for your massages, but you have built a brand. Then you give your brand or that reputation a name. And when you are thinking of a name, don't think of some strange name. I know someone who was selling yogurt and he called it elephant. And I asked him, who is going to drink yogurt called elephant? No one. So think about also the name you give your massage. Don't make it something too risky, or don't make it, bland. Think of something and then register it.
All right.
Then you can franchise, you can tell people to provide this service under your brand, and you will be able to stop other people from trading as you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Agaba. Thank you. A round of applause for him. I think for whoever called the yogurt elephant, they were thinking outside the box. Eh?
No,
I mean, just thinking outside the box. Let me get to Mehdi to respond to some of your questions, but also you could give us your parting shots at that.
Thank you, Mildred, and thank you, the audience. There's questions on, I'll be polite, moderating content. You know, for us who are tasked with moderation, we have over time observed a few things. One, our culture keeps evolving, and our appetite for acceptance also is not static. So that is further compounded, and I'll use Uganda alone. We have 64 local dialects. We don't have one national language. We all speak English, but the content that is being shared is in 64 local dialects. So it's not very simple to copy what other countries are doing, because for them they may have one mode of communication, and there are keywords that you can use to notice things that are going that you may not like. The good news is, even those countries that you think are enjoying these services have seen how disruptive this technology can be, and how the community standards they thought that are effective are not effective and actually now being abused. We all understand how Facebook, Twitter, Instagram was used to influence elections in certain countries, and now they are coming up with stringent laws and terms. They have been asked to, even jurisdictions that we are saying we are not in Africa are saying come and register here so that we agree how we are going to use your platform. So those discussions are happening. In Uganda, I think there is a new law that is being developed. It may come out either this year or next year, and it's not the Computer Misuse Act. We are just doing a revamp of all the communication laws to be able to address concerns that have been brought about by digitalization and the different changes in technologies. So I just wanted to share that, but we are not sleeping. What most people don't know is that we are able to identify those individuals, and we are not prosecuting. We are teaching them and educating them that this, though you think you're having likes, this is how you're destroying your country. This is how you can do it better. We believe that approach is much better and is more acceptable, because they become ambassadors and are able to pass on a better message to their colleagues, and effortlessly you create mindset change, and you have advocates that can drum the message better. Uganda has 44 million people. 70% of those are below 30 years. 56% of those are below 16 years of age. And those teenagers are very difficult to talk to understand your message. And they are the ones, when you track them down, you find it is a young boy who is 15 years old. So do you prosecute or do you educate, so that they understand that it is not about just sharing?
Okay.
As part of the remarks, digitalization in tourism, for us where we see it, creates potential across 3 areas. Operation on tools, like the gentleman here works out, customer layer, but also data analytics. All of us here have been to different pages, and if I'm to data mine what you have liked, I'm able to personalize and sell you an experience. So all those opportunities are available. I'll ask the operators in the tourism industry to adapt to the reality and the new technologies. They're not going to go away. Consumers now, or tourists, have virtual tours before they come to actually have an experience that is physical. And all of us have now heard about ChatGPT. I can on my own sit here, do a few queries, and I'm given a virtual tour of Chisoro. Okay? Now, these people are able to even compare prices and get bookings and everything. So we also need to up our game and adopt the use of this technology, because now it is very basic, and everyone with a little training, you can develop virtual reality, which will help you attract more customers to Uganda. I thank you.
Thank you. A round of applause for Mehdi. Thank you so much. And I love when you talk about the approach of teaching and educating as opposed to take them to. After all, our prisons are 3 times filled up. I mean, the capacity is supposed to be a particular number. There are 3 times more than that number. So we wouldn't really have, we would need to construct new prisons for that. Boris, let me first keep you, Bonita, ladies. She's the only lady, so I'll save her best for the last. Boris, some of the questions that came to you, and you'll also give us your parting shots.
All right, thank you. So to my brother who asked that question, how we can get to the hoteliers, we do need you. Because we only earn money when we bring you business through the commission models. And I think the best way to approach you people is through maybe the associations. I saw Madame Mwezi here, and she's part of the Uganda Hoteliers Association. So I think through those associations, we are able to get a pool of you and work together with you. So if the associations that are recognized in the tourism industry come together, the young tour operators, we approach you and tell you that, hey, onboard us as your tour operators so that we can bring you business, yeah? But you have to bear in mind that the incentives have to be there for us. Because now I'll talk as an entrepreneur, I'm only going to go somewhere where I know I am benefiting monetarily, right? So you have to put the right incentives there, because it's so sad when you get a lodge business and they tell you, give the client a markup, and yet you are advertising your prices on your website. How are they going to trust me, right? Yeah. Then your question about the training and the upskilling. If you read about the NDP3, one of the key objectives of the government, especially in the NDP3, is the training and skilling. So that's why they have gone ahead to build these training institutes. So I think that's a national issue that has to be addressed by the government, and I'm pleased that we have some representatives here that can help us upskill the people who are going to handle all the travelers, not even only the people who are coming from abroad, but even the local tourists. Yeah, so that one can only be done with the help of the government and maybe through partnerships with us who are already in the tourism sector. And my parting shots, I think to the youth out here, very grateful for such a platform. Technology has leveled the ground finally for us, the youth, right? We can easily say that through Tubayo we have the biggest hotel, because even Sudil here has only 300 rooms. So if he gets 600 visitors, meaning he can't accommodate them. If he has to expand, it will take him 6 months, yeah? But through our platform, we can accommodate over 1,500 people in one single night. So technology has leveled the ground for us, the young people. So I would highly encourage the young tour operators to embrace it, see how they can use it to enhance the value that you're offering to your clients, and even you, the already existing players in the tourism industry, please embed this technology within your operations. Then to our fellow Ugandans and everyone who's watching this, I want to encourage us to be proud of our country. Stop criticizing your country, rather support it more. And if you have any criticism, please maybe pass it through the side. Don't post on Twitter lashing out to anyone. So that way we are able to support our own local businesses, because once we support the local businesses, we can be able to build a community. What Bonita is talking about, the communities around the national parks are benefiting from that tourist who comes in, right? So if we are able to support local, I believe we can build our own business here and we stop depending on foreigners, yeah? With that said, I'm proud to be wearing something that's made in Uganda by a fellow startup. It's called Wire, and they sit at Motive, which is also run by the Innovation Village. So I believe if we support our own businesses, there's potential right here, right? And people will stop waiting on foreigners to come to the country, yet Ugandans themselves are not seeing their country. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Boris. A round of applause for him. And yes, true, if we support these startups, they will give us the taxes and will grow our tax to GDP ratio, which is currently one of the lowest, less than 14%, and we'll be able to bring it up. To the, you called him Godfather? Yeah, to the godfather of innovation here at Innovation Village, Japheth, to you.
No, I think Boris has said it all. I don't have to add, but just to put things into context, the way I began was saying 10 years ago, I saw a website that was promoting 10 websites that promote Uganda to the world, and there was nothing much about technology, innovation, entrepreneurship. So I'm proud to say we've covered ground, and we're proud of entrepreneurs like Boris and many others out there. Our biggest mandate right now remains to work with the government, which we're already doing, and also to encourage the private sector, especially the big businesses, to explore alternative ways that are sustainable for the industries where they operate from, to partner with entrepreneurs like Tuvayo, because as a country, we're not going to be able to create the jobs that we need, the taxes that we need, unless through sustainably supporting entrepreneurs to come up. I liked the address from the UN, and talking about innovation, big data. If you look at the data they have, in there lies the solutions for where we take this industry next. So for me, I'm all for the entrepreneur, and I'm proud of the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gaba. Yes, the questions were all firing to you. You finished those. I'll give you time to give us your parting shots on the topic.
To first thank the organizers for inviting URSB to participate in this talk. We have been enriched. Like I mentioned, we are coming to you, the tour operators. We want to hear your needs in terms of intellectual property and business formalization, and to see how we can support you succeed in the marketplace. And for maybe from speaking as a government official, of course, before Uganda is a tourist destination, it is a home to all of us. And government is committed to, at least from USP perspective, we are committed to building that home together. We believe that salvation will not come from outside. The things that are going to transform this country are coming from us inside here. It is us who have the responsibility to develop our country. It is us who have the responsibility to transform our communities. And it is possible because we can think, we can solve problems. We have willing partners, we have in terms of the government, and also policies are every day being designed to help us succeed. So let's work together to build our home first, and we believe that the tourists will find us where we are enjoying our home. Thank you.
I love that. I love that. A round of applause. And finally, Bonita, coming from you, your parting shots and any other deliberations that you would like to put forth.
First of all, I've been sitting next to this incredible entrepreneur, and I was thinking, if there's a time that you need financing, that you have sold us on Tobias.
Yeah.
It's done very well, and it's incredibly passionate, so it's good to see. I think some things that are quite key for us is in terms of content, we are building it for. Of course, most of our clients are coming from the US, from Europe, but as you know, intra-Africa, there's a lot of intra-Africa travel. West Africa is a huge market for East Africa, and I think it's important to develop content specifically for these emerging markets. I'm sure you know Australia, I think, is also a huge market for adventure travel. Asia as well. So you're looking at Singapore and Hong Kong. You have wealthy travelers that want to come and discover what we have to offer, but are we building the content for them? I think most of what we have is catered to the North American and European market. So I think it's important to do that, but specifically speaking on intra-Africa travel, I'm sure you saw with COVID, that is how actually we started getting the business back, was through Intra-Africa travel. And I think that's something as East Africa, as the East Africa Tourism Platform, that we need to do, is really look at the different markets and really build content for these markets to enable these travelers to come here. Another key thing that I want to talk about is personalization. Each and every one of your clients that's coming here is completely unique to the other. So it's important. So what, I mean, the gentleman from Kisoro was saying, we have travelers that are coming to Kisoro and they're only seeing gorillas for 2 days and leaving. But, you know, for a different demographic, I'm sure there are experiences that you can cater to them. So how are you developing them? How are you building them? How are you designing them for the specific itineraries? And how do we get them to those consumers? So it's important to know that we have incredibly diverse travelers. It's important to also know that we have a wealth of very young, you know, millionaires that on this continent that are wanting to travel, and they're going to the UAE, they're going to Paris and London. They can spend this money here, but develop the content for them, because we do have these experiences for them. So I think that's what I wanted to say, is making sure we're personalizing these experiences for the different audiences, and making sure we're staying authentic and true to the destination. Making sure our culinary experiences are, you know, as you said, the food here is incredible, but it's how, and this is how we need to develop it. We need to develop our skills. We need to just get it out there. I think that's important. And we talked about, of course, our traditional dance, our arts and crafts. So I think these are authentic to these different destinations, and this is why we're saying, as East Africa, we're very complementary to each other, because we're all quite unique. So it's important that we are collaborating to sell the destination as diverse and offering unique experiences in the entire East Africa that we can sell to the rest of the world. I just want to say thank you. I'm sure it has been a long day for everybody, but I've thoroughly enjoyed this panel session with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bonita. A big round of applause to all our panelists. That was incredible, and a big round of applause to you for sitting through hours to be able to discuss something that will bring a change in the industry. Clap for yourselves. I'll join you in clapping because you've been very, very attentive. One key issue, because we've been talking technology, we've been talking innovation, ICTs, data analytics. It is not just enough to have, as a tour company, hundreds of thousands and millions of people who are following you, but do you get to dig deep into the data? Do you get to dig deep into their conversations, their comments, and get to, like one of the panelists said, tailor something for them, because they're not following you. You know, in central Buganda we say fwa. They're not just following you anyhow. They have a reason why they are following you. So data analytics, while we're using ICTs, is very, very important. And while we go, I would just like to ask, we chorously mentioned some of the things that are unique to Uganda, right? And I am thinking, if you came to Uganda, what is that unique souvenir? What's a unique souvenir? Would you say, this is Ugandan? Like you would maybe go to South Africa and you're picking the attire or something like that. So what's unique that one thing, if you visited Uganda, is the unique souvenir? Uganda Waraji? Okay, apart from that, what else? See, it actually becomes a little bit hard. Yeah, someone is showing me I love Uganda bag or something. Someone said Uganda Waraji. Yes, it's unique, but maybe this also tickles our mind a little bit to think wider, because I'll take the Waraji, it's done, and I'll trash the bottle. So will I still have a memory of Uganda after that? Maybe something to ponder upon. But thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. I remain Mildred Tohaise, but just to be able to wrap up this conversation for us, allow me invite the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Uganda Tourism Board, and that's Mr. Ocheng Bradford, who sat with us throughout the conversation. This is how passionate, this is what we call taking people to areas that they're passionate about. So let's give him a round of applause as he comes to speak to us, but he will also say thank you to all our panelists in a particular way for allowing your time, spending your time to come and engage in this discussion. Mr. Ocheng, welcome.
Thank you so much. I think you are the only one who has not been, I think let's also try to thank her for really standing and also moderating it so well. Thank you so much. I've also realized that you really should be an investor, should be a tour operator, should be an innovator and all that. Thank you, panelists. I think this is incredible. Thank you so much. Information is power, and also to our distinguished audience, I think you really make it happen. I want to say this, UTB is quite happy really to, all the time to share with you. We do both marketing, we do also regulations. When you talk of regulations, then we are talking about standards. Whether in tour operations, we need standards, the accommodation, we need standards, whether in the guide, we need standards, whether in the restaurants, we need standards. Standards for travelers. You may think it's only foreigners traveling. You only realize when you come to a facility, when you are very healthy, then you go back when you are sick. I think those are the things you should avoid. Now, that said, if you listen or you read the President's directive last week, I think it was serialized in the papers, very clear. I think it was very clear that moving forward now, every month, he wants to see how we are implementing some of the things that we're talking here. And one of the things is really operators must be licensed. And we have to enforce this. So if you're a tour operator, if you're a tour guide, if you're a hotelier, if you're a restaurant owner, if you're a travel agent, these are things that are specifically stipulated in the law. You must license. Of course, the law has been very categorical. If you don't license, you work outside the law. Then there are just two penalties. The first penalty is to pay 48 currency points. I think the lawyers will tell us how much that is. Or 2 years in jail. I think he has just said there are not enough rooms anymore, or both. But I think all this time we have never done this because of a lot of contradictions in the industry. But now with this guidance, I think it's very important that we protect our destination. Destination Uganda is for all of us, I think has already been said. Let's protect it. It's the only way we can compete with our other destinations. So if we have good things, let's protect those good things. If we say Uganda is the most entrepreneurial country in the world, let's be good entrepreneurs. If they say Uganda is the most diverse country in the world, let's be diverse but also live in harmony. I think the last time also they say Uganda on the continent of Africa, the best English speakers. Of course, not me. Let's protect that. Let's see exactly how to protect that so that here in, here out, we actually do that. And all this and all that. But this said, really, I want to thank you. I'm not going to make another parallel presentation. I think where I am now, I just want to appreciate all of you and more really the panelists. We have our destination brand, Explore Uganda, the part of Africa. I think it's well protected. Thank you, URSB. We got the protection, and yeah, this is it. So I think it's now our prime time to say thank you to our panelists. And in order, I think you can just start from here. You come, we deliver, and then it's another way of saying thank you. Maybe, John, you'll come and give one just as part of one of our senior investors, both in Eastern Uganda and also in the Rwenzoris. John? Please.
Next.